I have a future. I'm not at the end. I'm running a whole new book.
What if it was leaving breadcrumbs for the life you always meant to build? Tonight we're talking about dreams, retirement, and the strange way our old longings can come back with new meaning. Monica Hebert says, the dreams of our youth may not disappear, but they may simply change clothes, go underground, and wait until they're ready to recognise what they are really trying to tell us. Welcome to the Retirement Future. I'm Mike Searles with Monica Hebert. And Monica, this topic has you very fired up. Why?
Because I had a personal experience with it. So I ended up writing an article about it that seemed to have really connected with a lot of people. Didn't realize they could think about having a future, first off. People who read my Substack are coming to me because they have not thought, oh, I could have a future. I could actually do something besides travel, shop, play pickleball, whatever. They don't want to be idle. And that came out crystal clear the way they responded to the article. The article tells the story of what happened to me. When I was a young woman at age 16, I had already determined I did not want to work for any corporation. I did not want to do a job where you punch in and punch out, but I didn't know what else beyond that. And there were these penny nickel little magazines and comic books that had ads in them that said, work for home, mailing postcards and whatnot. So I was like, okay, I'll do this. And that memory came back to me this week because I was offered sponsorship with Lyft for my newsletter. Now, let me tell you why that's important. I used to own 2 online newspapers, and I owned an ad agency. I kept trying, and it didn't work, and I kept trying, and it didn't work. But there was something that happened to me when I was 16 that wouldn't let go. Now, a lot of the reasons 3 entities I tried were I had obligations. I had kids. I had a husband. I had another job. I had to work at the same time. Being a younger woman, I was juggling all of that. And now here I am at 70, and I'm actually doing the very thing I set my cap to do when I was 16. And it looks like there's going to be a bigger future that I didn't even expect to have. And that's what I really trying to blow my horn. I'm trying to say, wow, just kind of rolled out in front of me. It was one breadcrumb after another that I followed. I didn't sit down and write a 5-year plan. I didn't sit down and say, what do I want to do in 12 months? I just followed the breadcrumbs. And they were kind of logical to me. So that's why I wrote the article.
I can tell you're fired up about this, and I can tell you really reached into the souls of your readers and followers and subscribers. And when I was reading that beautiful post you wrote, and it really has reached into the typical comment was, it's like you, I read one person's comment, it's like you're inside my head. I read another one, or several, that said, I really resonate with what you've written, or what you've written really resonates with me. So I felt reading your most recent post and notes, Monica, on this very topic. 3 things I thought: psychological, philosophical, and metaphysical elements to everything you're talking about. Let's talk about this a little bit deeper then, with you specifically. So here we are today. What difference has this made to you to realize that the future isn't what you thought it was going to be?
Oh my God, it is, how do I explain this? I now have thoughts and ideas that are coming into me, sometimes rapidly fast. Some of them are for down the road. I am planning a trip to go to the Greek islands. Okay, that's a big deal for me because I have never considered doing that. And I'm a self-proclaimed hermit, but I've always wanted to see the Greek islands. And all of a sudden, since I released the dream, people have been put in my path who are actually from Greece. Subscribers have showed up in my breakthrough group who are actually from Greece. I'm like, well, okay, we got to talk about that. Another thing that has opened up is the way I view myself now. Yeah, oh God, I was one of those women who lived her whole adult life as I got to take care of the husband, I got to take care of the job. Believe it or not, I was submissive and loyal to the bone. And now I like to think of myself as a woman of independent means who's making some different choices. Instead of replacing my car, I'm going to get one of those electric tricycles. The tool that I live in to run my errands, just because it'll be fun. Put some wild, colorful, crazy clothes on, weave in and out of traffic and where I live in downtown, and just have some fun doing. I would have never thought of that 5 years ago. 5 years ago, I was in survival. I'm 65 years old. Oh my God, what do I do now? And a good friend said, "Hey, why don't you write on Substack?" And it's critical to think, I have a future. I have a future. I'm not at the end. I'm writing a whole new book. That's a completely different feeling. And the book is empty. You get to fill it up, and there are no rules. That's the biggest part of it is you're not obligated to anybody except yourself and your soul. What do you want to do?
You use the metaphor of breadcrumbs. What if the dream you thought you failed at was never a failure at all? What if the dream or the dreams were leaving breadcrumbs for the life you were always meant to build? Now, when I read that, I thought of the Hansel and Gretel story of breadcrumbs to find one's way back. But you're not talking about finding one's way back through the past, are you?
No, it's back to the future, literally, like the
I was sitting here, I was hoping I'd hear that because that's exactly it's the perfect line. So just for someone like me who wants that explained a little bit, because I'm very simple-minded at times, explain to me a little bit more what that means, Monica.
Going back to the example, let me give you another example. This one I just learned about just a few weeks ago. My cousin Kate Carroll down in Louisiana retired. She was a sheriff's deputy. Okay. For 20 years, this little 4'10" woman was a sheriff's deputy. But her personal passion was decorating. That woman could decorate a home for holidays. Or if I called her when I was buying a house and said, "Kay, I need to go look at floor tiles," that was a happy day for her. She could go with me to go look at floor tiles. That's how much she loved decorating. So when she retired, she felt bored. She actually called me and said, "I don't know what to do." She built a swimming pool in her backyard, so she swims her laps in the morning, takes Pilates in the afternoon, travels to Austin to see her grandkids every now and then, but what else is she supposed to do? And I said, "You know what? You need to pay attention to what your soul was telling you because there's something in you, Kate, you haven't paid attention to." A couple of days later, she calls me back. You ready for this? She's standing in front of a very old hardware store in our hometown, downtown area. One of those old, you could smell the old wood and the tung oil in the wood. And she sees a piece of furniture that's been refurbished stunningly. And she doesn't get why she was so awestruck. So she goes back a second time and she looks at it up and down and goes, "I can do that." She goes home, tells her husband, "David, I want you to turn my side of the garage into furniture restoring space." They do all of that. She doesn't even tell people. She doesn't post it on Facebook. She redoes her own dining room furniture. And all of a sudden, people found out about it through word of mouth. And the next thing you know, she has a little cottage business. She has clients that are bringing her things. But here's the biggest part. It opened up a whole new community of people that she did not know. And they're now friends with and has lunch with and so on and so forth. Created a whole new book of life for herself. Instead of doing the regular, she still exercises, still swims in her pool and all of that, and still sees her grandsons. But she's taken her passion for decorating and made a little cottage business for herself. And she'll shut it, heartbeat, to go on vacation. And she'll tell everybody, "I'll be back in 2 weeks." And they just have to wait on their piece of furniture to get it back. And nobody complains. It's all very cordial. And she's just having a blast. So that's a great example. Now, what was the breadcrumb? Hers was decorating. From the time we were teenagers, her and her mother would go crazy. They would make their own draperies. They would buy houses. They flipped houses. They painted houses. They just did everything involved in creating a beautiful home. And those were her breadcrumbs that she brought with her to the 3 houses that she ended up buying through her married life until she finally realized, wait a minute, this is something I can bring everything I did from the time I was a teenager until now. And she had subdued it a little bit while she worked as a sheriff's deputy, but now she was in it full blown, and she's really tickled about it.
You mentioned that's a beautiful story. I read that too in one of your recent posts, and I thought, how wonderful. So 18 months to 2 years ago, you weren't on Substack, or certainly weren't doing what you're doing now on Substack. And now today, you've got over 6,000 subscribers. You've got those who are subscribed to you, and now you're just at that point now where you're talking about the possibilities, if it hasn't already happened, of sponsorship. of your newsletter, which is terribly exciting. Okay, so future, we've got the word future in mind. Okay, this is Retirement Future, the podcast. In our past, so we're all retired, or most of us are retired, but when we lived a younger life, particularly working corporate business, we did a lot of planning, forward planning, 1 month goals, 5-year plans. Get out of here. I'm reminded of this. I'm reminded of something that boxer Mike Tyson said: everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. Now, and it makes sense and the big punch in the face we all got in 2020 virus that spread across the whole planet and changed everybody's lives in ways we couldn't have known was coming. So how do you plan for this future and get rewired and refired without having plans that could actually derail you?
I think the biggest thing is to, first off, just to recognize you have the right to plan a future. I'm telling you, most people just really, that was like a light bulb moment for a lot of my readers. Oh, I could plan a future. Here's an example. In my future, I want to host a retreat for my subscribers, for my paid subscribers. Yeah, from around the world. Two of them joined yesterday from Norway.
Well,
I know, right? How wonderful would that be to have a retreat to pull everybody together for 2 or 3, maybe 4 days? How I'm going to do it, I don't know. But I don't need to know the how.
exactly.
What I need to enjoy, what I want to enjoy, is the process of thinking about it. And then as I think about it, I might find a location. So right now I'm actually on a location hunt, looking for a place that would be reasonable for people from all corners of the world to come in for a 3 or 4 day retreat. Now that's a plan that deeply impacts my life, but it's also a plan for my business. Does that make sense?
How exciting. How exciting. Reminds me of another saying: be fixed on the goal, be flexible on how you get there. And in the world of metaphysics, it's very much about knowing where you want to go, but the road to there, the path to there can be something you can't even imagine. You wouldn't have known 2 years ago that you'd be doing this, a podcast with Mike's in Australia, for example, you wouldn't have known. So just to have a retreat somewhere in the world where people around the world come and visit you, how wonderful. How are you going to get there? That's not planned yet, but it will evolve day by day, week by week. And I'm sure it will manifest and that will happen.
Oh, absolutely. I'm already kicking around ideas with the sponsors that I'm talking to let them know we want to do some things, because what has happened is folks outside of Substack have recognized that there's a lot of people retired that don't buy into the maintain life at this stage of life, just maintain. And then it's shaking up the conversation, which has been my intent. I've always wanted to shake up the conversation a little bit. My Aunt Frances always said I was born to be a lightning rod, so apparently that's another aspect of me coming from my childhood. Because what I envision happening is we will probably get news coverage. People will want to talk about it. That's a pretty good thing. I'm not talking about for me and my ego, but to get the message out about how to rethink, rewire how you think about yourself at this stage of life. A very simple process. It's not laborious effort. It's just every day. Start noticing yourself. And that's a big deal, but women are not real good at noticing themselves.
And let's speak directly to our viewers now, specifically to the viewer, making it very personal. What if the person watching you right now and listening to you, Monica, hasn't reached that point where they even can comprehend future in the way you comprehend future? They're at the moment almost chained, I use that metaphor, locked in, chained to very much a maintenance lifestyle where future just isn't on the radar. It's all about just getting through today in a very enclosed world. When we were younger, to me, when I was in my 20s and 30s, the world seemed so big, the possibilities seemed so vast, and I could have gone anywhere and done anything, the idea anyway. And then, particularly after my heart attack and open heart surgery, it all collapsed into itself, and I did live in a maintenance role for a good 12 months. Where was I going with that?
I think you want to know if is what I would tell a viewer, how to begin to discover what they could possibly do. First off, recognize and accept that you have every right to think in terms of possibility. The second thing is, I really want to encourage this. Become a student of yourself. Let me give you an example. Now, how does that play into the future? You start practicing noticing yourself. You have to know yourself intimately to be able to plan what you're going to do in the 6 months, in 12 months, in 18 months. You have to know how you feel about it, not just some plan somebody gave you in a PDF. You have to know, I'm excited about this. I can't wait to do the next step. Oh, that gave me an idea. Because ideas, once you start making a decision to do something, you'll be flooded with ideas. But you can't do any of it till you start paying attention to what you're thinking and feeling in the moment. Do you remember me telling you the story about watching the Duke of Windsor in the Crown movie? And what I noticed in the moment watching this movie is how I reacted to him saying, I'm in a predicament, because he couldn't be king because his mother lived for 50-something years, sat on the throne for so long. He said, I noticed in me, I sat up, I thought, that's what retirement is for a lot of people. It feels like a predicament. Me noticing something, all right? And I turned around and I wrote it down. I keep a notebook with me. Or what I really do is I dictate it into my phone, my thoughts very quickly. Because God knows I'll lose them if I don't do that. But it does. It all starts with, you have to develop a pattern. You have to develop a habit of making yourself the priority in your life.
You mentioned about noticing, and what comes to mind is a little exercise I remember learning somewhere about noticing, because we get, particularly in this in the retirement phase, and particularly if we're trapped and chained in the maintenance role of retirement, in other words, limited or no future, it's all about just preserving. Expansion is what we're talking about, advancement and expansion. And the little exercise, for what it's worth, Monica, it helps me, and I do it. I really do this. I'm very grateful for nature and what nature provides us. And I go into the backyard and I go out with the distinct purpose of noticing. I go up to the lemon tree and I notice the buds that are forming. I go to the spider that's spinning the web, and I may stand there for 15 or 20 minutes. I watch and I notice this spider spinning the web, and I'm in awe, Monica. But begin to notice the nature within you, because it wants you to expand as well. It wants you to grow and expand. It doesn't want you to maintain.
Oh, I love that word expansion. That you just made me very happy. First, I have two things I want to say. One, the wonder of the universe is something to take time to go fall in love with every day. Sometimes I don't always get to go outside, but I do have a little balcony that I'll stand out at night and watch the stars. And I'll go feel that wonder of the sky. We were never designed to be humans who stopped expanding. And I'm not talking about our waistlines.
Good.
I'm talking about our hearts, our souls, our minds. And the concept of expanding, I am such a different person today than I was 2 years ago. And excited when I think, oh, there's more coming. And then it becomes, you ready for this? It's like a journey of discovery. You can plan your future, and it becomes like a journey of discovery about yourself and what means something to you. And you also discover what doesn't work for you.
And just my finishing off on that, when one notices, when we're willing to notice, first of all, it is a conscious decision. I'm going to be more observant. Actually, it does sequence that way. Observe first, then notice. I'm going to be observant. Go in the yard and observe. What do I see? What do I hear? What do I smell? Etc. Now, my lessons in life have taught me, and we've all been through stuff. Every one of it. You don't reach the 60s and 70s and 80s and beyond without going through stuff. We learn through all of that. So here we are talking about retirement future and expanding, observing, noticing. When we're willing to observe what the voice within is speaking to us, when we're willing to notice then what that inner voice speaks to us, and we are willing to expand and magnify, what will happen is things, trust me on this though, viewers, and you'll back me up, Monica, things will begin to appear that you haven't seen before or noticed before. Like your friend that you talked about noticing the furniture in the window, and all of a sudden, look what happened there.
Exactly. That's how it works. Or like the whole, do this one right here. Here you go.
I love it. I love it. Monica, let's just speak to the wealth. Okay, so you mentioned specifically monetization, and so that's financial, the financial aspects of parts of those goals. You mentioned of when you're reaching 80 and et cetera. Now, that I also have goals that are related to financial goals and et cetera, but not everybody measures the wealth in that same way. So where I'm going is that the future, the breadcrumbs of the past that can be noticed today, your breadcrumb in a way recent was the word advertising. And so that has led to this opportunity with Lyft that you're speaking about, I believe. The viewer who is let's say we've got a viewer who's financially independent. So increasing money just isn't part of the goal because it's not required. Everything's there financially, but there's other parts of life in retirement that is totally missing. Maybe the spouse, the husband or the wife is no longer with them. Maybe they're distanced from their children and don't get to see the grandchildren. So there's a relationship gap there. Maybe there's a health issue. My own open heart surgery and recovery for that. So you're not just talking about retirement future being monetization and financial. It's much broader than that for the people hearing. Yeah.
Absolutely. I was talking to one of the ladies in my breakthrough group last night. She's a retired teacher, and she's been hemming and hawing on what she could do with the rest of her life. And after multiple questions and digging through it, I discovered that she really loves history. And she said, "Yeah, I do, Monica." But she didn't teach history. She taught little elementary age school kids. And I said, "What if you took your combination of history and your skills of teaching and create your own little online experience for kids to learn some American history that's not taught in public schools?" Because her frustration was that the public school textbooks leave out so much. I said, "Why don't you make that an offer for people?" I know a lot of homeschool mothers would love to have something like that. And you could see the lights in her eyes just open, being like, "Oh, I could do something like that." That's another example of going back to the future, back to your past, what you did, the skills that you had, and combine them with something you're passionate about now. Take what you had in your 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s with a passion that you forgot you had, and put them together. And you might come up with something that makes you excited about waking up in the morning.
And Monica, and speaking to our audience members, if you get a flash, so you start willing to be observant, you start noticing, you start hearing or sensing, oh, did you write something or did I read it somewhere else about where the idea, for example, let's say observe, notice, willing, the idea of expansion, what you could be doing next, what's next, doesn't have to happen as an image, or you may not sense it as words. It could be totally abstract, but you sense something, and that's important. I'm reminded of some sentence that somebody was asked, "Can you play the piano?" And the answer was, "I don't know, I've never tried." So why I mention that is if the sense, the visual imagery, the word in your ear or in your mind's ear is floral arrangements, improving old woodwork, the negative, I'm going to say the negative self, okay, the critical negative roadblocking self thinks, "Oh, but I couldn't do that. I've never done that. I couldn't do that." Don't be thinking like that. Think expansions. And what if I did? What if I tried and found out I can do it? Not only can I do it, but I do it so well, people want to see and learn from me.
Let me just ask you a question. Have you known it to serve anybody well to say, "Oh, I could never do that"?
Have I what?
Have you ever known anybody that was served well by thinking, "Oh, I could never do that"?
Oh, no. Oh, no.
That's just a bad habit. That's just a
Yeah.
habit. If it's a habit that's really heavily with you, take the damn habit, write it on a piece of paper, and go to the nearest fireplace and burn it and get it out of your
Burn it.
system. Because that's all it is. It's conditioned thinking. And you can change your thinking. You don't have to accept that condition just because you had it till you're 68 years old. It's worn out. It's no longer useful to you. Get rid of the stumbling block, because that's all that is.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing? It's so amazing that everything you're talking about, Monica, this whole concept, showing up in somebody's life in a real practical way. Somebody's life, somebody who's actually watching you and listening to you today, Monica, or tonight in your time, their life could literally change. I don't mean just in a broad, airy fairy, literally change overnight just by thinking about this and being willing to do the things you're talking about. And tomorrow something could change. And the whole future of retirement becomes nothing that you thought it would be. And it's so much better.
Nothing would make me happier, but to tell you the truth, I do get letters 2 or 3 times a week via email from people who have made a distinct change in their life or the way they approach from something I've read. And I'm not going to lie, I'm cheesy. I sit down and cry. I really do.
Oh, of course, I would too.
It's an amazing thing. And then I start laughing because I think about my Aunt Frances who said, Monica, you were born to be a lightning rod for other people. And I always look up and go, did I do okay, Abby?
So that's a breadcrumb, is it not?
Yes, yes, yes.
All those years ago when you were young, much younger, it was a breadcrumb that, to use that metaphor again, that you've been using, and now that's led you into the future where you are now. And how you get there at the moment is unknown. There's no street directory for that at the moment, but be fixed on the plan or the goal or the destination, but be totally flexible on how you get there. That's what you're saying, isn't it?
That is exactly what I'm saying. And for people who have lived a plan, unlike me, I've never planned for anything in my entire life. So this is not new for me. However, for people who did have a plan, a 20-year plan, a 30-year plan, or whatever, let me offer, if I may, this suggestion. Take whatever your routine is. Let's say you get up every morning, I don't know, 7:30, 7 o'clock. You make your coffee, let the dog out, whatever. Whatever your routine is, for the first 2 hours of your day, how about you flip it? How about you do something completely opposite of what you would normally do? Whatever is within the realm of you being comfortable. If you usually sit in your jammies and your coffee for a couple hours before you get dressed, how about you leap down to bed, brush your teeth, go to the potty, put some clothes on, and go outside? If it's even for 5 minutes. Here's what that does for you. Then tell the body, we're doing something different. Okay, let me catch up. Because you have to do some exercises to retrain your body on what to expect as you are starting to pay attention to yourself and start watching and looking for your own breadcrumbs. Now, that exercise also allows you the possibility of looking beyond what you've always known. It can be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It can be unnerving. It can be a bit of a challenge because you've done it for 20 or 30 years. And all I'm saying is just take one habit that you have done every day for 20 or 30 years and do the complete opposite. And
Yes.
allow yourself to experience something that feels like expansion.
Absolutely. The pattern, it could be called a pattern interrupt. We get set in our patterns. I've heard this is an excellent recommendation you've given, and may I just supplement it? And another way, really simple to begin with, and I would follow Monica's advice there on that. Another way is, because we all wear footwear, and we normally, without even knowing it, but you'll realize it when you do this, when you're next putting on your shoes, notice which shoe you put on first, left or right. And then the next day, do it the opposite. Anyway, what we're talking about is just something subtly that breaks the routine. And if you're in a routine of preservation, then just beginning with this rewiring of your neurology is the start of how you can break that routine from maintenance to rewiring for the future.
When you interrupt that pattern, now your mind and body become curious. And curiosity is a gift that just gives and gives. Because first off, I'm going to see things I don't normally see. So that piques up my brain a little bit. Secondly, those things that you see will instigate some thoughts you don't usually have on a daily basis. And if you're paying attention to yourself, you're going to notice some thoughts that make you go, I hadn't thought about that. And now you're a moment of self-discovery. And you
Yes, yes.
get curious.
And I know that there'll be viewers, Monica, who do feel like life is an entrapment at the moment. Doing these little exercises that you've just mentioned is a way to start breaking that pattern, because it starts in the inner world.
You've got to give yourself permission to say it's okay. And you'll be so tickled and surprised when you start on a journey of discovery of who you are, what you're curious about, and how you expanded ideas you hadn't even thought were possible until you start interrupting your pattern and start noticing what really makes you light up a little bit. Thank you for being here, my friends.
We have permission to seek expansion. Thank you, Monica.